morning with topic ransomware and evolution. And if we think about ransomware, we would recognize that this is not a new phenomenon. However, what we've seen is an increasingly sophisticated use of encryptors, wipers, and other means of restricting access to one's data in exchange for a ransom or some other extortion method. The challenge we face is not unique to us, but locally we're seeing an ever-increasing number of ransomware. Year to date, we're seeing over 150% increase in the number of successful ransomware attacks locally. And the challenge we face with ransomware is it really includes low or no reporting, particularly among government entities who are really mandated to report them. But we have a challenge where the larger corporations only report them as a condition of their cybersecurity insurance with external and third-party insurers. So with us this morning, we have two members of the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency who are going to take us through the evolution of ransomware over the years, from what it started to how it progressed and to where it is now. With us this morning, we have Senior Special Agent Prince Johnson, who is a digital forensic examiner and cybersecurity specialist with a master's degree in cybersecurity. He has the privilege of serving as an adjunct lecturer at the Caribbean Maritime Institute. Well, it's now the university, and is deeply committed to advancing the understanding of digital forensics and cybersecurity. And with him, we have Ms. Lanique Green, who is a dedicated cyber forensic analyst at the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, where she has been a key part of the Cyber Investigation and Risk Management Unit since March of 2023. She holds a bachelor's degree in forensic chemistry and a master's degree in cybersecurity, blending her strong scientific background with advanced cybersecurity expertise. Additionally, she is a certified digital forensic examiner, bringing specialized skills in investigating digital crimes and managing cyber risks to her daily tasks. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the team from MOCA as they talk about the evolution of ransomware.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear and see me properly?
We're hearing you, but you're very low. So if you could speak into your mouthpiece a bit.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So good morning again, everyone, and thank you so much for having us today. We're very honored to be presenting on ransomware and evolution. Now let us get into it. So, of course, it's a Monday morning. We're all at work.
Ms. Green, okay, no problem. We're seeing your screen in present. No, you may go ahead. We were seeing it in the design mode, but it's now in presentation mode.
Okay, perfect. So it's Monday morning. By this time, we would have gotten our morning coffee, gotten settled for work, and we are ready to do the day's job. However, we're checking our emails as we habitually do, and we have clicked on a link from a particular sender that we view as trustworthy. Without doubt, we are now experiencing some issues, and now we realize that we are victim to a ransomware. Sounds terrifying, but this is how simple it is to be brought into despair through our very day-to-day activities. So today, we are definitely going to be diving into ransomware and how it has evolved from the simple nuances to the sophisticated billion-dollar industry that it is today. So without further ado, let us speak about how it is that ransomware in itself operates, and more importantly, how it is that we can defend against it. ransomware is what we will be speaking about today, and you will be hearing a lot of the usage of the word ransomware. So let us properly define it. Ransomware is a type of malicious software, malware, that encrypts or locks a victim's files, system, or data, rendering it inadmissible. The attackers then demand a ransom to provide you with a decryption key in order to gain access to the very data that you own. Even though ransomware has been very prominent for the last 5 years in the headlines, it is an old technique, and we will be speaking further about its history today and how far along it has come. The first instance of ransomware happened in 1989. And the first recording of this was given the name the AIDS Trojan because of how it was used. So the AIDS Trojan was created by the evolutionary biologist by the name of Dr. Joseph Popp in 1989, and it was distributed to 20,000 floppy disk labeled AIDS information that was used at the World Health Organization conference. Since then, it has evolved into a much larger and much more lucrative industry. In the 2000s, it was given the name the rise of modern ransomware, because as we moved through the 2000s, we saw where ransomware became more sophisticated, where we saw the turning point of it not just being delivered to floppy disk as it was in 1989, but no, it was based on encryption ransomware. So cyber criminals began to understand and leverage strong cryptocurrency in order to spread ransomware. So persons started having a lot more difficulty in recovering the very data that they had. In 2013, we saw where ransomware had its appearance in one example as a crypto locker. This is where ransomware started to spread through emails and using attachments, and again, being built upon the same encryption technique that we saw in the early 2000s. As we move forward into the 2000s, a very important ransomware attack that occurred was in 2017. And this was the WannaCry ransomware, of which we will speak more of later on as we get into the presentation. In 2020, we had a new era of ransomware being delivered, and this era was called the era of double extortion. So in these years, not only did it build upon the same cryptocurrency encryption base that it was on, but now we had attackers not just encrypting the very data that we had as they stole it, but if you refuse to pay, we saw where they threatened to release this sensitive information publicly. So as we move through the presentation, we will now move into the types of ransomware that exist, and I invite my co-presenter, Prince, to do so.
All right, morning, everyone. Everyone hearing me? Everyone hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Brilliant. Everyone seeing me? Seeing me? Godfrey, you seeing me?
No, I'm not seeing you. Unless you're outside of my screenshot. I'm seeing your presentation, but I'm not seeing it.
All right. You guys will see me after the presentation. We're not going to spend much time on seeing me, but the presentation is more important right now. All right. So we'll jump right into the different types of ransomware. And if you guys were paying attention earlier, Lanique mentioned crypto ransomware, but these are more favorably called encryptors. And what encryptors do, they have strong encryption methods, they allow the data to be inaccessible without a decryption key, and it typically demands cryptocurrency payment, right? So in the field of ransomware, we realize that threat actors tend to ask for different types of ransom, and you realize the more complex the different ransomware are, then the more complex the ransom is. Now, in terms of complexity of the cryptocurrency, you know, getting a Bitcoin wallet and transferring the money. Sometimes they ask for gold. So these are it all depends on the complexity, and that's what we see during, you know, some different types of incident response on different types of entities where persons would ask for, you know, these different types of ransom. Another type of ransomware is the locker ransomware. Now, this is different from the crypto locker, or this one, the crypto ransomware, sorry, because instead of locking the screen, well, instead of locking the files, the locker ransomware actually locks the screen. So you won't know just by looking at the screen whether or not the files are encrypted or not. It's just that you'll just be on the screen and it won't allow you access in, right? So similarly, to gain access, some instructions would follow on the screen to, you know, get this amount of money in this different bank or this crypto wallet. Another type is scareware, where this is basically a scare tactic that allows threat actors to give different pop-up warnings and fake virus alerts all over your computer screen. And in order for these to stop, you would still have to pay a ransom. Hope everyone is with me so far. Another type is doxware or leakware, which this is a combination of file encryption with data theft. So what happened is the threat actor would gain access to your system, retrieve the files for themselves, that's the theft part of it, and then what they will do is encrypt those same files for you to either send money or send some Bitcoin currency within their wallet. And if you don't know this specific type, you think that, okay, they did not download the files from your system, you know. But with all that's happening with the previous ones before, we will encourage you not to pay, you know, not to pay, because it's not a sure thing that all the files will be decrypted, and it's they are upload your files onto the dark web, right? And the last type that we'll talk about is this sophisticated one. This is called a ransomware as a service. Now, what happened is you have a threat actor that he is just a professional hacker, right? He does this thing in his sleep. He writes malicious code and everything. And then now you have this non-professional hacker that he goes to the professional and render his service to say, look, I want to steal information from this organization or this entity, right? So what happened is whenever this entity is now bombarded with the ransomware and they pay the ransom, the professional get a percentage of this ransom, you know, as payment. And then the middleman, him go about in business with the people them file and the other percentage of the ransom. Hope everybody is with me so far. Hope I'm not going too fast. Everybody's here? We're good?
Yes, we are. You can crack on.
All right, brilliant.
I'm sure the questions will show
All
that
right,
they
cool.
paid attention.
All right, so this is a slide showing all the different examples of ransomware, and everyone is unique with the method, but we mentioned CryptoLocker already, WannaCry, which was a very popular one. Medusa Locker, Netwalker. These are all different examples of ransomware that were used in the past. Some persons build on these type of ransomware to make other variation of the ransomware. Now you may be wondering, how does one get affected by the ransomware, the malicious software? How does one, initially get into contact with it? So it's like this. So the malware is received via spam, so that would mean that some kind of link or some email was sent, right? The malware is then downloaded, which means that whenever you click that specific spam, now a malicious code is now downloaded onto your computer system. A malicious code is then downloaded onto your computer system. Now, this code is written to encrypt all your files, right? So you have some that encrypt every single file, and you have some that target specific files. And this is all based on the type of research that the threat actor would have done. And then now he can target and say, all right, cool, these files are more important to this entity, so we'll just target these specific files, right? Then after the encryption, sometimes you'll see the note, the ransom note being displayed on the screen, or in other cases, you have to go to a specific folder and then you see that text document to say, this is the ransom note, click me, whatever it is. Then you would read the ransom note and then you'll get instructions into how to carry out the ransom, right? Now, the majority of the times it would say that you need to pay the ransom to get back your data. And as I mentioned before, we will not recommend you paying it because it's not a guarantee for you to get back your data, one, and it's not a guarantee that the threat actor would actually keep the sensitive information between you and him. And these are other ways in which persons can be infected by ransom, phishing, which that this normally comes through emails and it poses as legitimate websites or links. Whenever you click it now, whenever you click those links, automatically, a malicious code is then downloaded to your machine, and then all hell breaks loose. MSP exploits. Now, this is when persons actually manages some kind of service, online service for somebody else, right? So, for example, A hires B to manage, the online books, online servers, all of that, right? And then somebody some malicious actor comes in and then they kind of take over what B was managing, right? So now A is in limbo because, because of B doing some kind of not exploit, but some kind of, unsensitization or non-sensitization of the employees, them actually click on a link and then now they're faced with having to pay a ransom. Bad adverts as well. And I mean, a lot of us would fall victim to this because we're not going to sit down and pay for cable, internet, and phone packages from certain service providers, and we want to watch English Premier League, we want to watch La Liga, we want to watch all the football matches, right? So what we do, we go on streaming sites. Now, when we go on these streaming sites, you realize that there are always pop-up ads, right? Now, not saying that all these ads have malicious code, but treat it as such. You know, so if you don't visit these sites with like an ad blocker from from your favorite browser, try to just stay away from it, because it's very difficult to know what adverts are annoying and what adverts are just malicious, right? And the last one we'll talk about is drive-by download. Now, how drive-by download is sophisticated is that whenever you visit a specific website that is already susceptible to a malware, just by clicking the website, just by visiting the website, you have already infected your device. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to click on any links on the website. You don't have to click on any photos. You don't have to click on any videos. The website is already infected. So just by clicking, malicious code is already downloaded to your system. And I'll hand back over to Lanique to carry us through the last part of the presentation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Prince. It was James Scott, who is a renowned cybersecurity author and consultant.
Ms. Green, could you pull your microphone down? Thanks.
No problem. Are you hearing me now?
Much
Perfect.
better.
Perfect. It was James Scott, a renowned cybersecurity author and consultant, who said, ransomware is more about manipulating vulnerabilities in human psychology than the adversary's technological sophistication. And this is so true, because what it does is it really manipulates how it is that we as humans perceive these things, and therefore react to it in such a manner than the actual technological sophistication that actually exists. So as we journey on through our presentation, we are here with a case study. As we previously mentioned, the WannaCry ransomware that happened in 2017. Again, let's just use a scenario to encapsulate this ransomware. Imagine it's a regular day at work, you're sitting by your desk, and in the middle of doing something important, the screen suddenly goes black. And then a message pops up to say, your files are encrypted, and we're asking that you pay $300 in Bitcoin or you lose everything. Now, I don't know about you, but I do know about myself. I definitely panic and I'd be in a frenzy. And this is just to show you how easily these things can happen. And this is exactly what happened in May of 2017 when the WannaCry ransomware spread across the globe. So we're going to speak a little bit about it today, especially on 4 aspects, just to give you an overview of the attack, the delivery, the methodology, and of course, the impact. So as you'll see on your screen, in May 2017, WannaCry affected 350,000 devices in the spread of 4 days. Now, for those of you who are excellent at math, I know this is a quick calculation, but I'm not, and I've placed this number in the calculator. And when we divide 350,000 by 4 days, it therefore means that we're speaking about 87,500 devices being infected or affected each day. But how did WannaCry become such a famous ransomware in respect to the others? It really is because it just showed how quickly a ransomware can spread and infect many devices. So WannaCry was different from most ransomware because it didn't just infect through a link or email. It was spread like a worm, crawling through the internet on its own, finding vulnerable computers, and of course, compromising them. When we look at the impact that it caused, in just a few hours, it was reported that over 230,000 computers in 150 countries were infected. We're speaking about hospitals in the UK reporting that they had to cancel surgeries. Patient files were locked and ambulances had to be rerouted. Now think about this. You're on an operating table and your surgery, a life-saving surgery, has to be canceled because of a ransomware attack. This is how serious it is, and that is how serious WannaCry was in 2017. Differently from just the example of the hospitals, we also have to speak about the economical impact that it had on society. It was reported that WannaCry caused an estimated $4 billion in losses globally, affecting companies, computers, and individuals. Generally, when we speak about ransomware, we're not only speaking about the compromise or the inaccessibility of the data that you own, but we're also speaking about the financial impact that it has both on yourself or as a company. We're talking about the loss of business continuity. We're talking about downtime for workers who need their wages in order to continue leading their day-to-day life. So in 2013, we had a report that shows that ransomware payments alone amassed $1 billion US. So the overall global economy was around 30 billion USD. Can we appreciate the magnitude of how much ransomware costs us financially? It is a great deal. So let's just move into speaking about the implications of the future. So my co-presenter presented beautifully on ransomware as a service, as a type of ransomware, but we also have to look at ransomware as a service in its growth. As we progress technologically, we can not only fear that ransomware as a service will grow, but we also have to be prepared that inexperienced hackers will use, pardon, excuse me. So you not only have to be prepared as ransomware as a service growing because you're going to have inexperienced hackers using thank you. We're not only going to be having inexperienced hackers using the services of ransomware developers to continue to inflict this kind of ransomware. We're also speaking about greater financial impact as well, because the cost of ransomware will keep rising in payment. And of course, because of its rising payment and its implications to businesses, we will also have a loss of revenue. As we progress technologically too, we also have to be appreciative of AI, and that in using AI and machine learning, we're going to be having AI-powered attacks. No longer will you have to sit and wait as a hacker to do these manually, but you'll be having the use of AI to make this seamless and effortless and simple to execute ransomware or malware on various devices or in other capacities. Now let's just speak to how it is that we can prevent being a victim. It's critical that we know this, not only in ourselves, but in also to help others to raise awareness in order to not become a victim of ransomware. So one of the first things that we have is you need to keep all your software on your computers up to date. We have seen over the years that vulnerabilities and lack of updates lead to a backdoor or a crack, so to speak, in which hackers can use to compromise one's system. We also want to be able to appreciate when there's a spam email by keeping abreast of the news. MOCA, I don't want to toot our horn, but we do a lot of awareness as it pertains to phishing emails, what to look for, what it is that you need to do. And of course, it is through this that we will be able to not only help ourselves and family members and the larger Jamaica and the diaspora, so to speak, to not click on links that are suspicious and leave ourselves vulnerable to these attacks. Thirdly, we want to keep our firewalls turned on, and we want to be using reputable antiviruses in order to prevent this. We have seen several times, as Prince spoke about earlier, when it is that we're on a ransomware or an incident response, and we're seeing that not only do they not have a backup, but if they do have a backup, it is stored on the same premises as them. So we want to ensure that our backups are separate. And of course, as I said before, and I can't stress this enough, spread awareness among employees, among family members, among friends, because typically humans then become the weakest link as it pertains to how it is that we prevent ransomware attacks and how it is that we build back from previous attacks that are there. So as we move into the summary, I invite my co-presenter to take it home, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation.
All right, thanks, Lanique. Thanks for that. Everyone hearing me, right? All right, so with everything that was said, the summary is simple. When it comes to malware attacks, knowledge is the best weapon to prevent them. Preventative methods should be taken before ransomware is established or establishes a stronghold, and keep all software up to date and have the latest security updates to prevent these attacks. All right, so the floor now is open for any questions and comments.
All right, so thank you, Prince. Thank you, Lanique. That was a brief walk down memory lane as far as ransomware is concerned. And we hope that the audience really took on board the fact that this is not so novel an idea, and it really is something that is growing in sophistication and in terms of the impact, just how devastating it can be. Statistics show that 1 in 7 small businesses fail within 6 months after a major ransomware attack. And so this is something that can not only affect livelihoods, but can affect lives depending on where and how these attacks happen. So I have a couple of questions for both of you, and then we'll throw it open to the floor. Firstly, can you walk us, either of you can take a question, through some of the major shifts in ransomware tactics over the last 5 years? Prince, Lanique?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
It's a perfect question. When we speak about the shifts that happen through the past 5 years, you said?
Yes, the last 5 years.
So, of course, the mode of attack has shifted now from emails, which we usually see a lot of phishing. Now we are having vulnerabilities that are being used because from RDPs, which are the remote DEX protocols.
Yes, and basically that's one of the biggest shifts that we see happening now, right? But it's not just a shift to say this is 100% what is happening. It's a combination based on our incident response activities. It's a combination of vulnerabilities or lack of, and there's a combination of the lack of sensitization, which would allow some certain employees to like click certain phishing link, and then you realize that the system is compromised. So it's not really a shift per se, but a combination of different techniques.
So thank you for that. As you look at the shift and the combination of tactics, how would you say that detection and mitigation strategies can change to combat this increase in the use of fileless ransomware as we move forward?
Well, to be very honest with you, to aid in the robustness of certain security systems and stuff, it will have to cost us to protect our system. So endpoint detection services, brilliant in detecting these types, right? So we would encourage entities, organization, governments to say, listen, as it relates to your firewall and as it relates to traffic coming in, EDR is one of the best routes to go. As it relates to just home and small business owners, just keep abreast of what is happening, because what we do understand is you have certain websites that actually give updates on the ransomware that is actually on the threat landscape now in real time. One of these websites is CIWARE, CYWARE, right? And it gives the latest updates on the vulnerabilities that threat actors are actually exploiting now, and how you can actually prevent yourself from being a victim. So it's all about awareness. And as I said, for a larger organization, for governments and stuff, it's all about spending money to get EDR to kind of beef up the security.
Well, we all know that in government, there is never enough money to be spent. But when we look at what you and Lanique mentioned about ransomware as a service, what do you, and maybe you need to put on the wider MOCA cap for this one, what do you see as far as the business model and the future of ransomware as a service, as well as organized cybercrime, and how that may impact Jamaica's digital economy?
Well, the only way it will impact Jamaica and its economy in a negative way is if we are not aware. So you see, if JA CIRT is not doing their job to actually promoting cyber awareness and promoting different types of engagements in schools, in organizations, and in other departments in the government, then we won't actually know, because we are just MOCA here is just an arm to the whole body. You understand? So we have to do a lot more collaborations with each other to actually increase the awareness, because I mean, some of these information, they are there, but persons don't know where to look, persons don't know what to look for, so I guess more, and this is just my personal view, I guess more collaboration, starting from the grassroots to the larger entity, for us, to develop awareness to our community and to other Jamaicans, so that, even if you have an increase in of ransomware as a service, we already have the information to combat, such an attack.
All right. Can I get your views on this, Lanique?
You hear me? Not to piggyback off Prince, but of course, I mean, when you speak about ransomware as a service, it also means that we have to be looking at the fact that no longer will we be having to say, all right, the landscape has X amount of hackers, so to speak. It means that these hackers now will also be giving out their service for inexperienced persons to use. So if there's malice or ill intent, persons can easily use the service that are provided by the ransomware developers to execute these malwares or implement these ransomware. It therefore means negatively. So Prince spoke about the positive aspect of it as it pertains to awareness and what both your entity and my entity will do. But we also have to look at the negative aspect of it, which will speak to less revenue loss, of course. It will impact negatively or economic standing, because it means that not only will Jamaica be in greater debt, but it also means that we will also have to be putting more mitigatory methods in place to prevent this from happening.
All right, thank you both. So I have two more questions before I throw it open to the floor. When we look at what is happening in terms of cryptocurrency globally, where the larger economies are tightening up on their efforts to sort of bring some level of regulation to the crypto land space, do you foresee there will be a decline in ransomware attacks as more and more persons are unable to anonymously pay these ransomware organizations when their systems are ransomed?
I'll take the first jump at that. Definitely not. And I say this because of the fact that while it is that these entities or organizations will be faced with the ransom, I am sure our attackers are not just Jamaican based. They're globally, and therefore I don't think they have an indication or any knowledge of knowing whether these companies are able to or not. And this is also dependent on how desperate it is that these companies are, because if it is that it's going to be a situation where the hackers themselves are going to be putting personal identity information out there, it means that these companies are going to have a duty to try to protect that. And this is also true with the implementation of our Data Protection Act that was recently established.
Okay. Any thoughts, Prince?
No, I'll definitely piggyback on my colleague's answer. Definitely.
All right. So you mentioned in a part of your presentation the recommendation never to pay the ransom. But when a company or an individual or even a government entity is faced with a situation where the attack has been so devastating that the only option is to try to recover by paying and getting a decryptor, how do you consider that position from an ethical standpoint, and what are the implications, particularly for those public bodies where it might be seen as facilitating or funding criminality?
All right, no problem. Great question, and thank you for that question. Now, considering that we are the persons are the specialists or the practitioners within the field, we are talking from experience when we say don't pay the ransom. It's not a guarantee to say that you're going to get back your information or they're not going to be published on the dark web, right? So the greatest, I mean, you may look at it as a gamble, but we know that these persons, they're criminals. They can't be trusted. And what to say, today you pay the ransom and then tomorrow you get another ransom attack. You get another malware attack, right? And the cycle goes on until that entity is, bankrupt. So when we say we recommend not to pay, it's not that we're saying don't spend your money, right? We're saying that it is not a guarantee to get the information that was stolen or to get the information that had been encrypted. So we would encourage persons, and I hope, other persons from within GOJ are here and they're listening, we encourage that whenever you have information, you actually invest in different backup methods, right? Whether it be the cloud or whether it be offline backup, just and by the day goes by, you just try to just update your backup. New file comes onto your main system. That means a new file to be backed up, right? Should in case you are, faced with this kind of faced with this kind of situation, then you know exactly what to do. You don't pay. They can see what they want to see, but you still have your information to, to actually have your business continuity.
Thank you both for that. Those are my questions for now, so we throw it open. And we begin with a question in the chat. Can MOCA advocate for more financial resources for all MDAs to fortify our systems and implement the recommendations?
So I'm not at liberty to see if MOCA can, advocate for that, but I'm sure CIRT can do that. And MOCA will support you, so I'm pretty sure, that's really a question for Godfrey, not us, not us guys.
Well, if I take it then to the person who put the question in the chat, the whole point of cybersecurity is something that has to be taken a lot more seriously. The organizational structures of entities, particularly ministries, departments, and agencies, and public bodies as well, is that you have to craft into your existing infrastructure as well as your existing establishment the equipment and personnel coupled with the policies and technologies that are going to allow you to, one, understand what your digital assets are, and two, protect them to a reasonable degree, at least as that first line of defense. The challenge that we face is that oftentimes these MDAs and public bodies want the IT personnel to take on the security role, often without training. And so that's something else that has to be looked to. Additionally, the human element is the weakest link, true. But the empowered and aware human is your first line of defense, because that person is the one who is going to oftentimes see the first changes in your system's operations and be able to alert your IT or your security team if you have one on site. The challenge, therefore, is for us as practitioners to bring the matter out of the IT department into the boardrooms so that the CEOs understand the dollar value effect of not implementing cybersecurity measures. Because we may talk about the ability to recover, but sometimes the reputational damage that gets done as a consequence of a cyber breach is not something you can ever recover from. So that would be how we can approach it, where we change the establishment, we change the infrastructure, and we invest in the people, whether through just plain old awareness training or ensuring that we have a couple of bodies organic to our entity that can do the first line of defense or securing our digital assets. I hope we answered your question, Institute of Jamaica.
I hear you. Sorry, I hear you. Thanks for the answer. It's not necessarily what I was looking for, but I'll take it.
So, if I can give you a ray of hope, Ms. Henry, we will, over the next 1 to 5 years, provide some support for MDAs to bolster their cybersecurity posture, and hopefully by so doing build resilience. The project is intended to start next financial year and will run for 5 years. The challenge, though, is the project will give you some capability. the challenge is going to be for your organization to take within that 5 years the opportunity to create within your own structure and budget the ability to sustain the capabilities that you have been given and even grow them going forward beyond the end of the project. So all isn't lost, but that really is just a drop in the bucket. You know, we have 283 public entities that we have to treat with, and so we will see how it goes. Second question in the chat, can you speak a bit more about the support CIRT and MOCA provides to private and public sector entities once an attack has been launched, i.e. identifying, isolating, and restoring systems?
All right. Thanks for that question, Ms. Graham. So as it relates to CIRT and MOCA, what should normally happen is once you have identified that whatever computer systems you have, they are compromised, then a report is made. Now, when that report is made, now it is the duty of CIRT and MOCA to collaborate and try to, get interviews with persons that are in charge of these systems. We do an assessment of the prem. After doing the assessment, now we can later develop a report or prepare a report based off the assessment, and then what follows after that is recommendation. And if is a case where restoration can happen, we'll restore, and then we'll talk about how to protect or how to better protect the system going forward.
I hope that answers your question, ma'am. No more questions?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I'll probably reach out directly to get a little bit more specifics, but thank you so much for the response.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Any additional questions? So I have one final question, and then I'll take your wrap-up comments. When we think about critical infrastructure, Jamaica has been in the process of identifying, enumerating, codifying, and promulgating a list of critical infrastructure locally. But when we look at how ransomware has morphed, certainly within the last year and a half, 2 years, to specific targeting of certain sectors of other economies, what steps would you recommend to the persons online here who are from different sectors within the country in terms of mitigating some of these challenges across sectors specific to the Jamaican landscape?
I'll take that one. So of course we can't stress public awareness anymore. We have to be able to to stay aware of what it is that is happening, and it is really through the awareness that we're going to be able to combat all of this.
So you have your opportunity now to give your wrap comments, and we'll take it from there. Prince, Lanique.
So, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate the forum because it's a platform in which we can speak about these matters, in particular this one, ransomware, and how it is that we can all work together in the awareness of how to be better and mitigate against the cybersecurity threats that await us.
Prince, your final thoughts?
Yes, so thanks for this opportunity to have a sit down with interesting parties or interested parties. It's always good to give back in terms of the knowledge and the experience that we have, and to show persons that, listen, we're actually here. We care about the cyber borders. We care about persons protecting themselves within the cyber space, and we're trying our best to make every effort in helping persons to be aware that it's not only physical threats are there, but cyber threats as well. And it's always a pleasure doing or being a part of engagements like these. So thanks for that, and thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We had the team from MOCA today who spoke to us about the evolution of ransomware. We had a brief look at the history, the technical sophistication, as well as the growth, the rise in ransomware as a service. In fact, just about anything as a service is out there now. We've looked at the impact on organization as well as the multi-extortion method that is becoming the norm within the ransomware as a service community, the role of cryptocurrency and industry-specific targeting, as well as response and recovery strategies, and the need for public-private partnerships as we seek to build resilience within Jamaica's cyber ecosystem from ransomware. We have looked forward the use of EDR and AI-enabled tools to assist us as practitioners and you as clients in thwarting the criminals who are already leveraging cybersecurity tools with artificial intelligence and machine learning enhancements. We have looked at some of the legal and ethical dilemmas, and we have to look at the fact that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that will keep growing. And if we cannot work together to appreciate that it is ever changing and we must change to keep pace, then we are going to be at the mercy of these cyber criminals. I want to thank you all for joining us again for another in the series of our lectures for this Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and urge you to join us tomorrow as we continue the conversation where we will have the CPFSA who will be on to talk about that aspect of cyber that we don't talk about very much, that being the young and vulnerable among us and how we treat with them while empowering them to be good digital citizens. Thank you all for coming, and that's a wrap.